Hello children, here is a short video that you can use at home to help you practice your coding skills. Today we will be learning to animate our names using Scratch. To start, you need to go to a search engine and then type in Scratch. Click on the link to open up the Scratch website and then click Create to start a new project. You can use your username and password for your year group to save the work you do today. If you don't remember the password, you can set up your own Scratch account, but remember to ask permission from a parent before you do this. For this activity, you won't need the cat, so make sure you delete it before moving on. The first thing you need to do is spell out the letters of your name. Click on the Choose a Sprite icon, then click the search button. Here you will see the sprites are separated into different categories. I click on letters at the end and I spell out the letters of my name. I'm just going to choose the letters for the word name today. There we go. If you have a long name, well, that means you have a lot more work to do than somebody who has a short name. Once you finish spelling out your name, click on the first letter of your name. In my case, that's the letter N. Next, click on the costumes icon next to the code icon. It is so important that you don't move the letters from the center point of the axis. Your animation won't work if the letters bounce around the screen. Before moving on, we need to make a duplicate of the first letter. To do this, simply right-click on the costume, then click Duplicate. The second costume is the one we will change slightly. To change this costume, I need to highlight it by moving my cursor to the corner of the costume template, left-click and drag the cursor over the letter. Now I hover the cursor over the dot on the blue line at the top, and you can see how this allows me to adjust the size of the costume. If you move the costume too far down, it will take away from the stop motion effect in our animation. Now click on the second letter, duplicate it to make a third letter, and then squash it down using the same steps as before. Now, to recap, I started with my original letter. Then I squashed it down a bit and a bit more. I now want my letter to grow back again. This will give the effect of the letter shrinking and growing and shrinking and growing in a cycle. To do this, I duplicate the second letter and drag it down to the bottom. You can now see the stop motion and effect as I click through the letters. It gradually gets smaller before growing back to its original size, which gives us the effect that it's growing and then shrinking again. I need to repeat these steps for the remaining letters in my name. So for the letter A, I duplicate the first costume to make a second costume, highlight the costume and then squash it down using the same process as before. Duplicate that second letter to make a third, and then squash it down a little bit more. And I want to make the effect that this letter is growing back again, so duplicate the second costume and drag it down to the bottom. For the third letter, the letter M, I want to give the effect that this letter is expanding. So this time I'm going to duplicate the first costume, and on the second costume I'm going to click and drag the letter to the right so it grows a little bit. Then I will duplicate the second costume to make a third costume, click and drag, and then expand it a bit more. And to give the effect that the letter is shrinking back to its original size, duplicate the second costume and drag it down to the bottom. As you click through, the sequence shows that the letters are expanding and shrinking again. Again, on my final letter, I duplicate it to make a second costume, highlight the new letter, squash it down a bit by clicking and dragging, duplicate my second letter to make a third one, squash it down a little bit more, and then duplicate the second letter and drag the new costume down to the bottom. Now we are ready to code. Oh, I can't find any blocks. Oh yes, that's because I'm in the costume section. The coding blocks are in the code section. There we are. So start on the first letter of your name. It makes it easier when you work systematically. Okay, you can see the different coding blocks on the left hand side. I'm going to start by adding in a forever loop. Now this block is important as it tells whatever's inside the loop to repeat forever. I'm going to start the coding with a green flag, which can be found in events. Now, I want my letter to change from one costume to the next over and over again. To do this, click on looks and drag it across and put it inside the forever loop. The next thing that we need to do is make the letters rotate. To do this, we drag the turn block, which can be found in the blue motion blocks, across and place it in the forever loop. Let's add some color to our animation. To add color, we click on looks, and at the bottom you can see the purple block change color effect by 25, and we'll place that in with our sequence. Now we are going to tell our code to wait as it repeats the sequence every time. At this point, it's a really good idea to test the program. So you can see when I click the green flag, the letter is rotating, but at a very slow pace. This is because it waits 1 whole second after each step. So I will change it from 1 second to 0.1 seconds, and look, that's much better, a stop motion effect. Instead of typing out the code in each and every letter, take the code you've already written and click and drag it across into the next letter and again into the next letter. This way of clicking and dragging code into different sprites is a great shortcut that will save you lots of time when you're coding. So once you've done that, click choose a backdrop. And again, you can see the categories at the top of the screen. Now, if I click on indoors and concert, oh, all of my letters are on stage. So to recap, I have added a backdrop and I have inserted a sequence of coding blocks into each of the letters. And now I can test my program by clicking the green flag, and you can see how the letters are rotating, they're changing color, and as they rotate, it gives a stop motion animation effect. Now, it would be really nice if some music played as the letters rotated. So if I click on backdrops, I can add code to backdrops as well as sprites. So I click on backdrops, I add a flag, and then I'm going to add a forever loop, which can be found in events. And then I'm going to click on a sound. Now, if I search for sounds, I can click on loops. These are samples of songs that will play over and over again, and just choose one and insert it into my sequence of code. When I click on full screen and click the green flag, music should play. There are so many different ways of animating your name on Scratch. It's about having fun and trying things out and exploring. Scratch does allow you to share work on their website, but only do this if you have your parents' permission. And make sure you don't share any personal details online, like your full name. Anyway, have fun. Thank you for watching, and bye.